I really would like to invite now the speakers for a short discussion, for some questions, at least let's have 10 minutes. You may have some thoughts, so please come up, spotlights on. For Tshwane, it will be the procurement expert, Dolly Mafa, coming up. Welcome on stage. So the floor is yours. Are there any questions? Wow, that goes fast. So please, on the right side, from Stellenbosch.
This question is for both City of Cape Town and Tshwane, but perhaps also ICLEI Africa. I'd like to know what your experiences, if any, have been in the rollout of solar power, whether they're small systems or microgrids, in informal settlements.
Thank you. Can we just let's collect 3 questions. Next one here.
I'd like to know from somebody from Europe, and then somebody from Cape Town. I think there's only 2 of you there. So
there are 4 in total. So,
so the 2 on the left, your right, my left. So basically, what I would like to know is the role of places for experimentation in cities, because we know that municipalities, at least in South Africa, are pretty much risk averse, and it would be futile to put in technologies that are not mature, tried and tested across the board. So I'd like to know, are there examples in Amsterdam, for example, or in other European cities where the municipality or the city allows for some failure and some testing? So I'm really interested in this notion of innovation districts and how innovative procurement can actually lead to, trying and testing new technologies that could be rolled out across the city, but within a spatial location. And then, what is the appetite in a South African context? Because we have all of this rules and regulations, the MFMA, and all these difficult legislative processes, and how does that actually hamper our ability to do something like that?
Thank you. 3rd question, and then back to the panel.
Thanks. Yeah, Will McDowell from University College London. I was very encouraged by the presentation around sustainable procurement. In the UK, we often talk about how important it would be to do lots of sustainable procurement and how we could use procurement as a tool to advance sustainability objectives. And then such aspirations get swept away by a focus on short-term least cost procurement in order to reduce pressure on government budgets. So I'm really interested in how cities, perhaps particularly Tshwane, can maintain the focus of using procurement for long-term local value rather than short-term budget considerations.
Thank you very much. I turn to the panel. Who wants to start first? I know the first question was about the solar energy in informal economy sector, then place for experimentation, public procurement of innovation, then the latest question specifically about procurement. Who would like to start?
Thank you very much. My name is Dolly Mafa from City of Tshwane. I'm responsible for City Sustainability Unit. We're working in partnership with our supply chain colleague there. In relation to that, I'll just give a perspective of what is happening in City of Tshwane. We don't necessarily have a formal rollout to the informal sector per se, but we have a program or a project of solar panel or solar water geysers to our formal settlements, and it has been coordinated by the city. It ran very well. The acceptance was very good, but a bit of a challenge it was in encouraging the residents to upscale it due to cost and other elements. But in as far as the city is concerned, we are now trying to come up with like a policy or a bylaw to try to accommodate or encourage that aspect. It is not yet moving at a pace that we will want it to move, but it is something that we are gradually moving towards.
Thank you. Maybe now to you, Mr. van der Merwe. I just noticed that we didn't take care so much about gender balance, but I hope you don't mind.
I just want to say, you know, I was member of a lot of panels in the past, but this was the best one. I hope that will happen more in the future. If I'm respond to the question on the solar panels, yes, in the city of Cape Town, we also have a project that was retrofitting the solar geysers in informal settlements. I think we talk about 50 million plus rand to do that, and it's an ongoing process. Then I just want to answer the question about the innovation hubs. I think this is more or less the question. In the city of Cape Town, we have some partnerships. We have the Greater Tygerberg Partnership. We have the Metro South East Partnership. Also PEDI, that's the Philippi East Partnership, and also the Cape Town Partnership. Now, they are partnering with the city by getting, the city gave them money on a 3-year basis. And this is just one of the aims is to have all of these innovative ideas. So it's for these partnerships to create such a hub for innovation. And I know I'm lucky enough to be part of one of these partnerships. I'm to be on the board of directors there. And I know there's long from since the first day they talk about innovation. So there are possibilities in the city of Cape Town to create such hubs with innovation and to help establishing partnerships with businesses. And then also the sustainable procurement. Yeah, you know, we're in an ongoing process in talking with National Treasury, which is the government that we're to talk to about procurement, to try to put new regulations in place to help us with this new sustainable procurement. And that's why we have a policy that is agreed or approved in council and which we review every year to see how we can upgrade it. That's why we bring in this, as I've mentioned earlier, under the community vendor base and all of these projects and programs to help us to establish more and more sustainable procurement.
Thank you. I would like now to give the floor to Marjolein, and also when you answer, could you summarize maybe 3 success factors for you that the circular economy is so strongly regarded in Amsterdam? Maybe is it also the political backing? You know, sometimes I wonder why others, sometimes it's more talking than walking, and in Amsterdam you feel like, yes, you're there connecting circular economy. What do you think are the success factors, apart from the answer to these questions, if you could? Thank you.
To start with the questions, I think if you, I talked to you about the regional program, about coordination, working together, etc. If you look at all the different municipalities, with its 33 municipalities and 2 provinces, there is a very active policy on field labs and living labs. So there's plenty. Actually, to that extent, that people start complaining about the fact that there are so many living labs, and that people would like to see things moving from pilot to upscaling. And that's what has been a problem in the past, that people start pilots without the end in mind, which is obviously that you would like to upscale and actually make this common practice. So in that respect, we have now a different issue, and that is that we definitely focus on upscaling mostly, because I think there has been a lot of experimentation that can now be applied. But I have a few examples for you, which I'm happy to give after. Yeah, definitely. With regard to the question of the gentleman there from London, circular or sustainable procurement is not necessarily more expensive. And that addresses your question. Yeah?
Please tell that to the UK Treasury.
Yeah. Well, we've been working obviously on circular procurement now for 2 years, and what we notice is that it's change. a lot of factors hold change back. Obviously, institutional, vested, technological, regulatory, etc. But I think the most important thing that holds change back is actually mindset. And we've noticed that from participants, organizations in our communities of practice circular procurement, is that they always say we can't, it's too risky, etc. But once they've done it, you know, starting partnerships with suppliers, doing thorough market consultations, they notice that it might initially take a little bit more time, but eventually it pays back. And we can do this. We have done this, actually, to give you an example. In 2008, they demolished a social housing project in Amsterdam and rebuilt it again with 95% reused material and 98% energy efficient. The only reason for that working, and we haven't done it since, that's the funny thing, but the only reason why it worked and below budget and within time was that at the beginning, the tender specified that you had to form a consortium, partnership, equal division of earnings, and whenever it was within budget and within time, everyone would share the benefits. So we could. So it's mostly a mindset thing. So that actually, and why is it successful? Because I think now it's, you know, it's not so successful as in we are, I believe we are on the start of a transition, to be honest. But it's successful because it has landed in the policies, it has landed in the CSR policies, in the governmental policies, etc. But also, most important, it has landed in the mindset. But still, it's an individual game.
Thank you. You want to add something here, Grace?
I think if I can just comment on the question specifically around the solar PV panels. We've done some implementation, but what we found there is that it either needs to be small enough that it can sort of be in a window or something that it doesn't get stolen, or it needs to be a community-based system where it's on a communal facility where people can go and charge whatever they're wanting to charge. Having it on a household level, we've found has been quite tricky. I know there's some interesting projects with University of Stellenbosch, but besides that, also the work that we've done, we've focused more on a communal space. And there also what's important is getting the community's support so that they actually feel ownership in the program and they can actually help also look after it over the longer term. That's, yeah, besides the solar PV, I mean solar water heaters, but on the solar PV side specifically. And I'm happy to chat to you afterwards about that. Just another comment also on the maintaining the long-term focus. I think that's really, really important. And yes, with the Global Lead City Network on Sustainable Public Procurement, the only two cities in Africa that are participating is the city of Tshwane and Cape Town. So I'm glad that they're both here, because they are, you know, two of 10 cities around the world that are actually looking on sustainable public procurement. And I think it's a difficult task because you are up against a lot of challenges. So I also just encourage them to keep doing the good work. Thank you.
Thank you. So there is one short question, and then we will have to close.
Yes, Ania Kemp from the Merit Institute in Maastricht. I think we just heard some examples of useful policy approaches. And indeed, such things are needed because eco-innovation needs a favorable environment of which government policies are a part. My question is, to what extent you know, do the municipalities sort of learn about the needs for policies from local actors, you know, what they could do usefully, and to what extent they also adapt their policies, you know, over time, based on policy evaluations about what they do and, you know, could do better. And a related question to that is to, well, next to problems of eco-innovation implementation, there are problems of policy implementation. So, you know, is there a kind of mechanism sort of going on about that? you know, like sort of cities meeting each other to discuss these things.
Thank you. Who wants to answer this briefly before we close?
In the city of Cape Town, we're part of a lot of networks, like ICLEI, like C40, like the 100 city. We're one of the 100 resilient cities. We're part of the Covenant of Mayors, etc., etc. So with this and networking with all of these organizations and other municipalities worldwide, we get knowledge from them, and we try to take out of that what we can implement here, and vice versa. So we try to deal with that and put it in our frameworks and policies.
Thank you very much. I'm afraid we have to close. The smell of fresh coffee is coming in. I think it was a good session, and please keep on talking to the panelists also there around. Hopefully in the break. I think a key driver that came up was procurement. Indeed, I think procurement can be a driver for your climate targets, for your social targets, and about the saving, money saving. Just quickly, we have, for instance, the example of Vienna, where green public procurement is mandatory, and they save every year €1.5 million, and it's a big one. But it can also be about the smart and creative procurement, like Malmö or Copenhagen. They have 100% organic food in their public canteens, in schools and kindergartens, and yet they don't pay more money because they have long partnerships, for instance, with farmers on organic milk. They have less meat, etc. Or Karlsruhe, who instead of purchasing cars for every politician, they combine it with car sharing and save a lot of money there. Or you mentioned earlier here, Mr. Moroka, about the LED that saved a lot of money to many municipalities in public lighting. So there is drivers, there is hope, and we've seen a lot from Africa, from Europe there, and the discussions continues. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot for the speakers for coming here and sharing their experience, and thanks to you.